Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mcapellum. Today's video we'll be playing up against Shark Hunter, a very strong competitor from the Mag 1 League, specifically for the 201 region. Now, because I knew this was a serious game, I went for what in my opinion is one of the strongest opening packs, Arclight Sledgehammer, very versatile, good in defense, but also good in long range games. And yeah, I mean, I was expecting, something relatively sweaty. So we go for that pack. We have a marksman specialist to boot. So, most air threats we should be able to deal with. And Shark Hunter decides to go for a Sabertooth Arclight opener with quick supply, arguably the best specialist currently. Now, I was kind of expecting him to maybe go aggro because that is typically what you see, Sabertooth, or where you see Sabertooth being used. But he decides to play a long-range game. So in that case, I kind of feel relatively favored because, I have Sledgehammers, which are just nice frontline, and I have the Arclights. I mean, he has the same, but, the Sabertooth usually do fall off long-term. If we look at my positioning, I go for a more central defense. There's no mid-wall, so my Sledgehammer shouldn't get pulled every which way. And yeah, I'm pretty happy to defend in that fashion. I go for Arclights mostly on the left side because that's where the board is relatively empty. Whereas on the right side, I have a wall, I have a chaff clear turret. So that's why I'm mostly stacking on this side of the board in terms of chaff clear. I also go for double Void Eye here because I feel like Void Eyes are very good against things like Sabers, and they should be able to help me out a little bit with the chaff clear. I know that I'm getting a marksman next round, so I don't have to worry too much about buying anti-air. And next round I can focus on buying my chaff. I wanted to give myself a chance here to win round 1, which is why I went for DPS instead of chaff. Because I think if I buy chaff, I might really struggle to take down those sabers. Now, last second here, Shark Hunter goes from a middle positioning to the left and then ends up on the right after all. Which means that we are in a little bit of a crossfire. I mean, I am mostly stacked on the left. So there is that. Lucky for me, I do get that marksman next round, so I should be able to just put the marksman here. Perhaps add one Arclight on the right side to help this chaff clear turret. And we can use the buildings to our advantage here to kind of mount a defense, whilst we're still pushing into the left side of the board. Granted, it's not very quick, as, we're pushing in with Sledgehammers and Void Eyes and Arclights, but eventually we should get a debuff there. Hopefully, with enough units left to be able to actually kill some of these. Do get the debuff. Chungus, though, is reloading, so I think that's about all he'll manage. And I actually don't think that we have enough here to be able to win. So round 1, sadly, we miss because of the gamble. And because of that, we take a fair bit of damage. I think if my units were on the right side, we would win quite convincingly. But hey, what are you going to do? Round number 2, Mass Prod Phoenix here shows up. Very good card. Shield airdrop, not bad either. Wasp Swarm, I guess, worth thinking about. I decided to go for the Mass Prod Phoenix, even though I do have the Marksman. I wasn't planning on investing into these long term, but just having some Phoenixes around tends to always be nice in these early games, especially when there's a little bit of a asymmetry on the board and you're trying to push in for towers. Phoenixes are just that much faster. They come in a pack of 2, so their DPS output is a lot better as well. It means that you just typically have a better time taking down turrets, kind of flying around the map and helping your weak side out. So here, as I said, marksman on the right side, positioned to be able to help out against these sabers. And I give it an Arclight right in front to make sure that this marksman doesn't get stuck, at least not for too long. Just more chaff here for my opponent. He picks that shield airdrop on the right. Low chance we'll be able to take that down, although maybe on the wraparound, if you manage to pick up this tower, we can. Marksman, though, look at that. Insta-lock. Sadly, my Arclight instantly dies, which is not ideal. And yeah, looks like I maybe should have put it on the right side after all, or, add some chaff, which is on the menu for next round. Because of that, my Marksman is unable to shoot at anything else. At the very least, it did take down one Saber, but now it will feed a whole bunch of experience to the other one, which manages to pick up a level. And yeah, that's a bit unfortunate there. The Arclight definitely does make a big difference. As well, if it didn't go down, I'm sure that the Marksman would have survived. The Sabertooth wouldn't have leveled. So, not ideal. We will end up winning still, though. Doesn't look like we'll get that shield. But we do deal a good amount of damage. And opponent didn't start with a lot of hit points, right? Because of that quick supply opener. Heavy armor showing up, though. That's a bit rough. Sabertooth level into heavy armor is never a fun time. So, yeah, that could be a problem. I still have good DPS, mind you, because of my marksman. But this will make things a lot more complicated. And yeah, the Arclight going down there, I have a feeling, has made a big impact on kind of the state of the board right now. We do pick up more chaff. I was a bit afraid that he might try and like missile the sledgehammer pack with the void eyes. So I do put a fang up there. On the right side, I don't need to do that because I have the wall kind of screening. So I can put a fang somewhat late. And then we buy another Arclight here on the right. Now, instead of going for chaff to be able to get in front of the Arclight, like a crawler behind the tower, I'm going to opt to go for Arclight range on turn 3. Because that should also allow them to stay safe for that much longer. They shouldn't end up, you know, being around the wall and, well, hopefully not die to the Sabertooth as a result. Opponent just picks up more and more chaff. Yeah, just buying more crawlers, more fangs. Does go for a marksman on the left side, hoping to perhaps catch out the phoenixes. The slightly awkward thing that I have going on here is that I have good tower pressure, but I have no crawlers, right? My board is quite strong, but the one thing it is definitely lacking is the chaff, which my opponent has. You know, I'm currently down 4 crawlers, and that could cause some trouble on the left because my phoenixes will get ahead of everything else because of the speed difference. And typically you want to have some crawlers because they move at the same speed to cover for them. That won't be the case. Hopefully, though, we still have enough resources to just overwhelm in terms of numbers, and looks like at the very least my Void Eyes are able to tank the marksman a little bit. Phoenix manages to catch it out, so there's no big issue there. Arclights are living, thankfully, and the marksman has managed to lock onto that big Sabertooth. 55,000 hit points there on round 3 is rather nasty, but left side still pushing in convincingly. We get a debuff, and this is looking like an ultra solid round. Lots of damage available here. Keep in mind, these Phoenixes, they deal 200 damage a pack, even though I only paid 100 for them. So mass-produced can definitely increase the tempo of the game tremendously. And look at that. Already down to 1900 is Shark Hunter. Now, round number 4, and I was a bit afraid here because I saw the sandworm being offered. And yeah, I know that sandworm currently is very much meta in High MMR. Mechanical Division is definitely a little bit of a broken tech, I would argue. It is far too cheap. With, you know, little good counters, at least cost-effective counters to it. So seeing this drop was a little bit scary. I pick up the Melter. I didn't want to get stuck playing a Worm Mirror. Also because I thought he was better equipped to deal with Worm. I guess I could have pushed in on the left, though. To try and go in. But I wanted to avoid these Sabers because Saber is a decent counter to Worm. I was hoping that maybe, you know, the Melter could lock onto this big Saber. And sometimes if you're up-tempo, you can beat Worms with Melters. I already had, you know, a good board of Arclights. If Mechanical Division comes out, I can always try and go for Electromagnetic Shot and just kind of play it that way. So that was the kind of the plan moving forward. Opponent thinking about buying more Marksman with range here, perhaps to just win against the Phoenixes. And also, I guess, contest my Arclights. He has a ton of cash still. Does end up going for range on Arclights. A little bit undecided there about what he wants to do, it seems. And just buys more crawlers. I do go for a crawler all the way in that top left. Idea there was to pull all of these units and maybe open up the tower for the Phoenixes to get in quick, as the debuffs have been extremely helpful. I feel like maybe I should have just kept pushing on the left side here. I went for the Melter. Looking back, I feel like I should have just gone for Worms myself and like heavily stacked, right? Because the play that he went for here is certainly not ideal. Now, right side, we have an absolute disaster as both my Arclights end up stuck on the Saber and my Melting Point decides to start shooting at crawlers. So, terrible, terrible round here. Really not what we wanted. The Marksman ends up locking onto the Saber, but with the heavy armor, it is just too tanky to kill. Left side lost as well. I mean, I didn't expect the Phoenixes to keep doing that well. But yeah, they get taken out by the Marksman. And now in hindsight, I'm thinking, ugh, if I picked up sandworms and just, you know, pressured the left side, we likely would have been able to get in. You know, I could have bought multiple sandworms, bundled them together, thrown them into the tower. It would have been amazing into the ranged marksman. And yeah, honestly, like, right side was already doing well, so I probably didn't need to go for the melter there. A little bit of a throw, arguably, on the unit drop round. Let's see if we can somehow stabilize it. Round number 5, another heavy armor shows up, and now I'm head in hands, like, oh no, that's not good. Fantastic item on the sandworm. I guess it's good on my melting point as well, though. But now, as you can see, more worms going to be purchased. Opponent sells the saber-tooth that they had to be able to afford a third sandworm, and there is mechanical division, as I talked about. I do end up picking the heavy armor. I mean, it's such a good item for the cost that... apologies. It is very hard to skip if you have any big units. I mean, even on a sledgehammer, it can be decent. Here I decided to go for worms myself. So this play that I had in mind, right, for last round, I now decide to go for myself and overwhelm, because I could see he only had one sandworm. I decided to go for double worm with that heavy armor and try to beacon them in. We still have that crawler on the top left. That should pull his units, and we also have enough money to go for the mechanical division. So, a bit of a, you know, mishmash of different units here. We've got a Phoenix here and there, although we are selling out of them. Arc lights, a marksman. We've got a melter just sitting around. Let's see how this goes. Ideally, I do manage to get in. A debuff would be amazing, and I don't need to win too many more rounds to be able to close this game out. Melting point now freed up. Definitely rather nice. Also manages to lock onto that sandworm on the right. We'll get annoyed, though, by those larvae when they spawn. And left side, we are managing to get in slowly but steadily. And we will grab the tower eventually. But sadly, already my melter has gone down. And we're still stuck on that left side. More than I wanted to, if I'm being completely honest. Worm just not really managing to attack the correct units. It's stuck on chaff, I think, and arc lights are stuck on the worms. Right side is pretty much a stall at this point. We will end up winning because my sandworm just has more hit points, but it's not as big of a win as I'd hoped for, considering we managed to get that debuff. There is a level available, though, on that sandworm, which is always nice. Sadly, it's not the one with the item. And now, we're into round number 6. Absorption module here available. Orbital bombardment could be decent. And here I'm thinking, alright. So now my opponent sees the worms. I haven't invested too much into it. I'm expecting him to grab a worm counter. You know, a titan or something of the sort. What if we just sell out of the worms and try to kind of pivot back into our original comp, right? Which is kind of arc light based. And try to make the melting points work. So I grabbed the absorption module, which is fantastic on melting point. And what you will see me do is sell out of the worm. Transfer the item, because, I mean, this worm level plus the item is fantastic. And try and just go back into Arc Melter and hope that my investment into the worm will have drawn out a certain response from my opponent. I also grab EMP here on my arc lights, which is what I talked about, because I see the worm commit on the other side. And as long as I can prevent the worms from spawning larvae, melting points are just fine into the worms, right? It's just like the spawned larvae afterwards that cause a lot of trouble and delays. Looks like I don't have the money right now to get this worm level, sadly, but you do see me move it kind of backwards. I am loaning here. My opponent picked up the orbital bombardment, and here is that response into the sandworms. So he tries to go hackers with enhanced control to get my worms at full health. Well, let's see how this goes. I'm quite happy here, though, when I see this, because I feel like I've read the board relatively well. And now the question is, you know, can my board perform? Now, the orbital does an absolute, like, war crime on my board and clears all the chaff. So, you know, we're not exactly able to do too much on the left side, and my melter instantly dies. Right side, we're doing okay. The sandworm is, you know, able to kind of get in, but I'm gonna lose my tower. EMP Arclights are doing a decent job. But considering I loaned here, it's not the outcome that I was hoping for. It looks like maybe my worm gets taken over. Thankfully, it kills the hacker in time. Now the question is, how much can my melter still do? There's a bunch of chaff on the board still. I will get debuffed a second time, so I don't think we win. Orbital there, sadly, making us go down a little bit too quickly, and we do lose the round. But I'm relatively happy about the board setup that I have, as I feel like this board should be capable of dealing with the worms. Now, round number 7, we get unit drops, and it kind of feels mandatory here to go for wasps, which is what both of us do. And I expected him to go wasp as well, because neither of us have a great answer to the wasps. So what I wanted to do is get ahead in the wasp department by really investing heavily into them, right? Like, get more wasps than him, make sure that I get some techs. And yeah, what you see me do is just sell out of that worm, even though it did do well, but I realized I don't have too much money and I wanted to double tech wasp. So this allows us to get, you know, quad wasps, pick up range, pick up energy shield as well. And the reason I go energy shield here is because it's good into the marksman, theoretically. It's not bad into the wasp mirror either. And, well, I didn't know absolutely for certain that he would go wasp, so clicking AA here would have been, I think, a little bit too risky, right? High chance of overcommitting resources into a tech that potentially doesn't do anything, whereas shield here should always be useful. Now we loan again. Opponents realize that we loaned, so they do the same thing. I am very light on chaff in this game, by the way, as you can see. Only 4 fangs on the board, but I just haven't been able to find the deployments required. That being said, my opponent doesn't have a ton of chaff either. You know, only like 4 crawler packs extra, maybe 3, because I think I have 1 more fang pack. He tries to stack the worms, but you can see that the EMP Arclights here are doing a great job of preventing those larvae from spawning, which means that my melting point can stay active and kill the worms, but our lack of chaff ends up biting us as the worm decides to burrow right before it goes down to my melting point. Right side is winning, but my wasps are not able to kill the enemy wasps as I'd hoped. Keep in mind, we did have 2 extra packs with double tech as opposed to no techs, but left side, our melting point got fully taken over, and it's just not the result that we were hoping for. Thankfully, my opponent doesn't go for my second tower. My wasps do manage to grab a debuff, and I still have some Arclights left alive to apply that EMP. So it does look like we'll be able to clean this up, but it won't be enough to finish the game. Awfully close round. But we do manage to at least pick up another win. Now, round number 8, and Enhancement Module shows up. Could have been alright, I guess, but I currently don't have any free slots on my units, at least not ones that are very useful. I guess I could try and bounce it around on the sledgehammers, but it is a bit greedy, and at this point I was thinking, well, maybe I can try and get ahead here by building a Titan. Mountain is very, very powerful against Mass Worm, and his board is really rather low DPS. It's like low-level marksman. The worms can't do anything against the mountain. Wasps aren't the highest DPS either, at least, you know, for the time being. But then he throws out Mass Wasp range AA, and this I don't read. And I decided to go for the mountain, which should be good, but the question is, will we be able to kill the wasps here? I'm very confident that I can win the ground, but will my wasps be able to stay alive? Because even with the range, they still do not have more than the mountain, so they should get in front And, I mean, even, you know, with AA, there's prioritized targeting range. So maybe my wasps here will just die very rapidly, and then I have no AA left. At least AA that's capable of killing wasps somewhat quickly. Let's see how this goes. It's basically ground versus air dominance. Hopefully the mountain doesn't get hacked. That would be an absolute disaster, but there's only one hacker left on the board with no range. So surely here we should be fine. As you can see, though, my wasps are starting to go down. The mountain is doing a fantastic job at killing the worms. The arclights are helping out, preventing those larvae from spawning. Right side is not looking good, as the wasps are just getting in en masse. And I'm surprised about the amount of damage that is getting through here. I mean, I didn't have the money to go for something like mountain plating, which was what I was looking for initially, but it's just too expensive. It looks like on round number 8, we are actually going to lose to this mass wasp play. And now, I mean, I built a mountain and it didn't work out. Typically, this type of play only, like, you know, does well for the one round that your opponent doesn't expect it. And then, on round number 9, Scorpion gets offered in the unit drop. Nothing good here for me because I need to deal with the Wasp. I don't think Fortress would have done it. Maybe I could have gone for that. I could have tried to pick up Fortress and sell my mountain, perhaps, and just go mass Fortress AA. But I wanted to try and get the AA tech on my Wasps here as well. Looking back here, I think I definitely should have tried to sell my mountain because of the unit drop. And you can see the opponent goes for range or siege and acid on the Scorpions, which is a little bit scary. I decided to range my mountain, though, keep it, and mobile beacon it backwards because I don't want it to get insta-locked. The opponent beacons the worms back and forth, hoping that they get in after my units have died. We'll have to see how this plays out. I probably should have sold the crawler here at some point because now it's delaying the wasps, which is not ideal. But, I mean, I had to recover some money here. Siege Acid, though, definitely a very scary prospect. Opponent does play around the 4th AA to a certain extent by going for 2 more Wasps here in the front to basically tank the missiles for the late Wasps. I do buy a bunch more myself, and we're already up to 6 packs now of level 2 Wasps with triple tech. So in theory, I should be able to win here, at least in the air, provided that my Wasps don't get stuck on anything else. We'll have to see. Wasps are connecting. Arclights are clearing. Wasps are getting stuck there a little bit on the worm, which does mean that on the right side, I lose most of my Wasp packs immediately. We are doing a bit better, though. This time around, there's not a mass amount of Wasp. But then I look to the left, and oh my days, everything has crumbled. And the worms still have to get in. Those Siege Acid Scorpions from the drop are doing an absolute number on me. And yeah, I mean, that does not look good whatsoever, as we do end up losing this game. It was awfully close. Couple of, I mean, gambles in there, I guess, like very hard predictions. I think a big part of our loss was this particular round, where we could have gone sandworm as well. Now, I'm just not a big fan of playing mirrors in general, because I find them to be, well, not that interesting. And ideally, in this game, units should have a cost-effective counter. So if I know that my opponent is going to pick sandworm, I would like to just buy the counter. So I tried to make do with Melter here, which is not ideal, but it does the job. But, I mean, if I just went for the worms myself and tried to push the weak side, we could have seen, like, what happened, right? Like, let's say that we do something like this. We pick up another worm. Maybe we even buy, I mean, some chaff here. That would actually not be too bad, I think. I guess I could try and pull this, which is what I tried to do initially. Mobile beacon, I think, sounds good. And we could sell... I'm thinking about what I want to sell here. I think I do want this, but I also kind of want to grab the mechanical division on the worms if we can. Let's see. I mean, the sledgehammers, I think, are not doing that much, so I guess we could try and sell that. And then maybe we just do something like this. We could even missile that wall to get in even quicker. And then let's see how this plays out. This was another option. I was a little bit afraid of that right side, but, you know, we did manage to win it the round before because of the debuff. So, you know, if we play for another debuff here, then maybe, just maybe, we can get in. Worm does manage to get there, does end up getting the debuff, and my marksman is able to clean the right side, and that is a much better round, right? Both worms still alive. That is a ton of damage. My opponent was down to 1900 hit points, so it basically would have put him down to about 400. That's not a bad result. So there's one. I think our transition was good, though, going from the worm into the melting points with EMP arc lights did work out for us. But then this round was also very important, right? Where we ended up going for wasps first with range and shield. And I guess I didn't really think about him going for mass wasp with range AA because it is the one tech that we're missing. So let's say that I predict this and we go for the same play, right? So let's say that we pick the improved firepower system as well. This wasp is not that important, or this phoenix, I mean, so I guess we could sell that. We should long, we should temp range for sure. Let's say that we pick up the third tech on the wasps here, and I guess we go for something like that. Not sure if we need to pick up these. I guess I could go for... I mean, some more wasps and some more chaff would be very nice. Maybe just a crawler here all the way in the back could be helpful. I do want to grab some more wasps. Maybe we just do something like this. And then, I mean, what else do we want to do here? I'm not too convinced about these sledgehammers. I guess this one is like somewhat important. The Phoenix could be sold. It doesn't sell for a lot, but could be sold. The marksman, I'm not convinced does that much either. What does this get us? Is the question. It's a bit of a tough one. I'm not sure if like arclight levels here are that useful. I guess I could grab these wasp levels though. This is not a bad level to grab either because it's like a very tanky melter with an absorption mod, but I don't think it's something that I really want. Maybe we just take the tankiness. And then, I mean, we can grab maybe a level there on one of the arcs. Let's see. So let's say that we predict this. Do we even win? Is the question. Because I do have the melting points to deal with the worms. But keep in mind, he stacked this very heavily. And it is just a level 1 melting point, which is a little bit scary. Yeah, it doesn't really seem like that works. Even if you do predict here, the worms just completely overwhelm. So that certainly wasn't the play to make. Ouch. I guess another thing we could have done... I mean, I don't believe that we should have gone for range and AA on the Wasp turn. I feel like that's a bit too big of a commit, but maybe that's what we should have done. On the turn that the Wasp showed up, we could have gone range and AA instead of range and shield. Even though I do think shield makes more sense, because I didn't know for certain he would go Wasp. I say that, but I was like 90% sure. But, you know, shield makes sense into the marksman was my idea. So it seems relatively safe. But that's an option. If I go range AA here, I'm not sure he would want to go for the mirror. And either way, it would kind of allow us to not have to invest more into Wasp and buy more melters, right, the turn after. But let's go to round 9, where there was a unit drop. I don't think we can win this either, if I'm being completely honest, because Siege Scorp is a very nasty drop. But let's say that we, like, invest everything that we have into Fortress AA. I don't think it goes well because, again, we have so little chaff. that it's really, really problematic. But let's see if we do something like this. We have a ton of money available, mind you. A ton of money. We could also try and like stack, I guess, and like move into a tower, but let's try something like this. Maybe we go for AA Wasps ourselves as well. And then, I mean, the problem is I have no chaff, so all of the acid shots are just going to be landing. I could level my melting points here. I'm not sure if it does that much. It most likely doesn't. I guess maybe we should just go for that level. And then perhaps we grab some Arclight levels along the way. See how this goes. I don't like our odds here, but if we can heavily win the air fight, we should be okay. But that's kind of the crux. I'm not convinced that we will. The first salvo is not going to do that much. It mostly just kills those 2 wasps that were added. So now we need the second rotation of Forte A to come through, which it does. But I still lose my wasps for the most part. Right side does seem to be winning though, which doesn't look too bad. But debuff there is awful. And yeah, I still would have ended up losing here. The late worms just catch me and then I'm getting bombarded from long range. So very tough game. I don't think there was much to be done in those last 2 rounds. I think for me, the biggest part of the game here was that early game. I played a very tempo-heavy game, whereas my opponent went for, you know, more of the scaling route, just had more chaff in general. We made some good reads, but eventually, like, the drops kind of catch up to us. And yeah, the Wasp AA transition made it so that my mountain play didn't work out. So again, I think the most important kind of phase of the game for me was here, making the correct choice and going for the sandworm mirror and just kind of pushing in. I thought he would defend his left tower better, to be completely honest, because it was so open and it lost him the game, or it lost him the round extremely heavily, which is kind of why I didn't want to push into it again, because it was like, well, surely he's going to try and plug that gap. But as we saw in the replay, it would have dealt a ton of damage and probably put us in a better spot to try and close things out. Anyway, if you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of it and if there were other plays that I missed. If you want to stay up to date with latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.